Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our Sunday night feature here at Rubbins Racing TV. It is, of course, our staple of the Gt3 Championship here at a rather grey and drizzly Portimao circuit in the Algarve, Portugal. You're currently joining us with 2 minutes 30 remaining of our practice session this evening. Some of the lads just working on their setups, as we are forecast for rain in tonight's sprint race. Does look as though it is going to clear up in time for the feature race this evening. So wherever in the world that you are watching us, you're definitely going to be set for an action-packed evening of racing here at Rubbins Racing. These GT3 boys are definitely going to be pushing hard with only 2 races remaining of the season. Race 4 of 6. So it starts to become pretty tight and crunch time after tonight's set of races. Which brings me on to our current championship table. Got 1 minute and 45 seconds remaining of the session, so we'll just have a quick rundown of that. Gt3 currently leads the championship with 186 points. Remember, he got that victory last week in the sprint race. Thorsten Smith, he also got a win last week inside the feature, and that puts him on 158 points, just behind Gt3. So these two currently trading places inside the championship. PT is currently third with 135 points, and he's got Bruce Law in close company, just 4 points below him in 4th position. We've then got another 4-place gap down to 5th place, which is NRP. And then a sizable gap, but not out of reach. In 6th place, we've got Traven on 108 points and Uniclark on 103 points in 7th position. VMX makes up 8th place. He's currently sat in 8th on 90 points, so only 13 points away from 7th place Uniclark. And then Travis is currently in 9th on 79. Lionsfoot is currently sat in 10th place. He's got 49 points, with TomTom unfortunately unable to race for this evening, so he's being brought in with a ringer of Dark Ninja. TomTom unfortunately injured in a mountain bike accident yesterday, so all the best to him. I'm sure he'll be watching this evening. Hope you get well soon, mate. Then in 12th position, we've got Turkish currently sat on 39 points, and Fast As Gamer makes up 13th position on 36 points. Then we've got Evan currently sat in 14th position on 23 points. And then our latest addition to the GT3 Championship with Herlo85, featured last week. He's currently got 7 points, and he will remain for the rest of the season here in the GT3 Championship. So as these boys finish up their final laps, we can see Herlo inside the Bentley has actually made it into the top 5. Currently sat 4th place in his lap time here in the practice. We'll have to see how well he gets that Bentley around inside the qualification session, which will be coming up very shortly. Qualification will also be wet, so these boys should have got their setups finely tuned and can hopefully put in a fast time. 143s we're currently looking at from the practice session. We'll have to wait and see if there is any improvement to be made there, and whether or not this rain is going to get any worse. So whilst we wait for the timer, it looks as though we've got All Right Turkish currently out on track, as well as Fast As Gamer. Fast AF Gamer currently struggling, it seems, in terms of his lap times. Does look as though he's only put 2 laps out there though. So potentially working on the setup of that Z4. Have to wait and see what he can put in next time around. So as we wait for the qualification session to get underway, just tell you a brief summary of what we've got coming up here at Rubbins Racing through the rest of the week, as I quite often do. So on Tuesday night, you can join me for the commentary of the Rubbins Racing Touring Car Championship. That begins at 8 o'clock PM UK time. Keep an eye out for that one, as that championship is definitely hotting up as well, with a lot of drivers trying to dethrone Demobi from his chance of a 3-time back-to-back championship victory inside the touring cars. Then on Thursday night, it's going to be time for our Thursday Night Lights, which, if you haven't come across it before, we take a different track and a different car each week and allow our drivers to get their chance to prove themselves on track. Then on Friday, it takes precedent for the Gt3 Championship. That one also getting a little bit feisty if you managed to tune in last Friday. Then Saturdays, it isn't broadcast, but we currently operate an Indycar Championship. If IndyCar is your thing, then get yourselves over to www.robbinsracing.co.uk, get yourself signed up onto our Discord, and you can join in the fun on a Saturday evening at 8 o'clock PM UK time. And then Sundays takes time for the Formula Renaults inside the morning. That also isn't broadcast, but that takes place at 10:30 AM. So if open wheelers are your thing, then get yourselves signed up to Robbins Racing so that you can join in all of the action as we approach season 4 in the next few weeks. And then Sunday, of course, is what you're currently watching at the moment, this GT3 Championship, which is always action-packed, always full of some of the fastest drivers that you'll find here at RR, looking to put on a show for you. So we're currently tracking Traven around the course. Currently sat in 6th position inside the championship, but he had a bloody good race last week. He's looking to try and improve upon his championship standings. And he's not too far away from Bruce Law in NRP as well, to try and get within reach of that top 3 finish by the end of the season. So as ever, I will keep you updated with all of the sectors as they start to come in. Of course, our drivers just currently getting those tyres warmed up, get the brakes up to temperature on the route laps, and we'll start to see some hot lap data coming through very shortly. In fact, it looks as though Duftino was the first one in there with a 40.6 in Sector 1. Just to put that in comparison with who we're currently watching, travelling around the course, that is 3 seconds almost on the money quicker. So Duftino finding some very early pace out in the rain inside his trademark Lamborghini Huracan. And as the rest of the Sector 1 time start to pour in, nobody can even come close, it seems, to Duftino's time at the moment. He has just put a 27 seconds into Sector 2 as well. And it seems to just be head and shoulders above the rest at the moment. Ethan Thorsten Smith unable to compete with that this time around. In fact, let's have a look over to Duftino and get a quick look over that. Leonardo currently supporting Duftino, whereas we've got JR on the stream who's rooting for NRP this week around. Let me know the rest of your predictions as we see there. Duftino just running a little bit wide. To correct himself, may well just take that one on the chin and invalidate that lap. But look at the time that he put in last time around, a 1:45.5, whereas the rest of the field are currently coming in at 1:47 or slower. So certainly throwing the gauntlet down there for the rest of the drivers. Whilst we wait for the rest of the guys to finish, let's have a little bit of a look around this Algarve quarter-mile circuit. 2.91 miles in total, which is about 4.7 if you're working in euros. Altogether, 15 corners around a very undulating up and down course. Really tricky one, this, in terms of getting the balance on the car, especially when you start to consider any form of downforce that you're putting in. These GT3 cars don't run higher downforce than the likes of an LMP or an open wheeler, but it definitely has its effects. And this is a fantastic sweeping camera shot of a very tricky corner to get right and get right quickly. And a braking zone there just over the crest of that peak that sneaks up on you without any sort of indication. Have to use gut feelings more often than not. Looks as though Dovtinho has found the force in order to get that braking zone right, especially inside the wet. No lockups to speak of. So it looks as though that early lap time from Dovtinho is paying off, as most of the field seem to be struggling in terms of green sectors. So it looks as though the track is naturally slowing down ever so slightly. As we listen to that thunderous Bentley roaring around the track. Great sounding car that inside this GT3 Championship. Uniclark managing to put that around corners like nobody I've ever seen before. Really tricky car to get the handle of, but both him and Hurlo representing the Bentley team this week. We'll have to see how well they do. Looks as though Travis has just put in a fantastic Sector 3. Currently sat in 8th position. I wonder whether or not it was an invalid lap, because it's actually showing up as a purple on mine, but he is 5 seconds ahead, so I wonder whether or not either my telemetry is a little bit squiffy or perhaps an invalidated lap on that one. Let's follow Matthew, aka Fast As Gamer, inside that BMW M6. I think I mistakenly took it for a Z4 earlier. Currently sat in 6th position, and that'll be a good start from him. He is currently quite far down the leaderboard table, sat in 13th, but having raced with him throughout the week and also throughout this season inside the Formula Renaults, I know that he's got a lot of pace inside him. I think he's just been unable to string together the laps in terms of his GT3 performance since he's joined the championship. I'm sure that we'll see much more of him. VMX as well, currently in 7th position. He made his debut into the GT3 Championship this season around, and he's been doing very well, you've got to say. Debut season, he's currently sat in 8th position in the championship. He has had a couple of unfortunate races as well. Didn't quite finish as high as he would have wanted to last week. But within that top 10 at the moment, he'll be looking to get a good start away into the sprint race. No improvement there from Fast As Gamer. Let's have a look at Travis in that very distinctive Nissan GTR. He's going very quickly inside practice. It looks as though he's struggling to get the pace together in terms of the qualifying. We'll see whether or not he can make an improvement on that as the session goes on. So with 1 minute remaining, let me just give you a run through of how this operates if this is your first time joining us here for the GT3 Championship. 2 races in total for the evening. Of course, we are currently 9 minutes into our 10-minute qualification for our sprint race. The sprint race is going to be 20 minutes in total. No mandatory pit stops for this one. Track limits are turned on, as is damage on this one. And then when it comes up to our feature race, we're going to double the amount of laps that these guys have put in. There is going to be a mandatory pit stop, but more crucially, it's going to be a reverse grid. So we're going to have a rolling grid for the second race of the evening. So whoever finished in the last position inside this sprint race is going to start right at the front of the pack and have their best foot going forwards in terms of picking up as many points as they can come the end of that feature race. It looks as though NRP has got himself into 2nd position, and that looks like a pretty good time. Nobody else able to beat it. So NRP, our lead coordinator inside the GT3, has got himself on the front row here with qualifying complete. I can't see anybody else beating that. Uniclark and Thorsten Smith look to be making up the 2nd row. Still got Hurlo out on track. He also put in some pretty quick times inside the practice session. He's just about to come to the end of this, and he's gone white in both of his first two sectors, but let's see whether or not he can make any improvement come the third and final. It's not, unfortunately. He remains in 11th place. And now Traben, he was also doing very well in practice. Looks to have struggled a little bit in this qualification session. Two white sectors from him, first and second, and it looks as though he's just going to practice his entry into the pits. Came in hot there as well, did well to break in time. As we see, all right, Turkish, he also completes his qualification session. No movement from him, he's going to start in 14th. And Dark Ninja, the ringer for tonight, inside that black and white AMG GT, going very sideways. So that's all from the qualification session. Duftinho tops that one out, so it's going to be a bonus point to Duftinho come the end of today's sessions. NRP gets himself into second. Uniclark does enough to make it into the second row inside that Bentley, with Thorsten Smith alongside him for company. We've then got It's PT and Fast As Gamer making up the third row. Very good qualification from Fast As there. Hopefully he'll be able to translate that into some meaningful points. VMX Rider and Travis go behind them, with Bruce Law and Lions Foot sat behind Travis and VMX. And then we've got Hurlo and Evan with Traven and All Right Turkish on the back two rows, with Dark Ninja right at the very back of the grid. So stick with us. We're going to have 2 minutes for these guys to get the cars set up, and then we're going to be underway in tonight's first race of the evening. You can see there at the very top, track temperatures are looking quite warm, but we have got light rain forecast for the entirety of this event. So by all means, guys, let me know where in the world you're watching this from. Let me know your predictions. I know that we've already got a couple coming in, but would love to see your predictions and see how well they transpire to the end result of this race. Around about a minute left of setup time. Looks as though we've got our resident Rubbins Racing Touring Car Championship watching the stream at the moment. He's rooting for Thorsten, supporting his national teammate. Final adjustments being made from the guys. Tyres adjusted for their racing setup. All of the race fuel will now be added in. Hopefully all drivers putting in enough for the 20 minutes required of this session. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, just waiting for the lights out as we hear the beeps. And away we go. Looks as though it's a pretty delayed start from the front two. This is going to allow the rest of the pack to try and move around. Looks as though Thorsten Smith's having a little look up the inside. Let's have a look here into his chase cam. Looks as though he's managed to get himself just ahead there of NRP in that blue Merc. Let's jump back into trackside. Looks as though he's got that move done quite clearly. Cleanly, should I say, as the rest of the pack seem to move on through. Looks as though All Right Turkish has managed to make his way up a little bit. Bruce Law falling back behind the pack. And VMX looks as though he's had a spin out with Evan, perhaps. It is indeed, with Evan right at the back. That's going to set them back some. Let's have a look at what's going on at the front of this. So it looks as though Duftinho and Thorsten Smith have pulled out a very early lead here, commanding the rest of the pack. Looks as though they've almost got a second and a half to the third place of NRP at the moment. Let's have a look at what's going on between this battle here. So we're currently in the chase cam of It's PT. we've got Uniclark and NRP ahead of them, as we see them both braking at different points there, trying to get the master of this turn. Very tricky one, and then they're going to be flat out all the way up the hill, managing to brake as late as they dare, as we see a little bit of nudgy contact there from all drivers. It looks as though they've gotten the straight and narrow, and that's given Travis the chance just to sneak his way ahead into 4th position. Let's jump trackside and get the rest of this action. So as the rest of them were making contact with one another into the braking zone just before they begin that turn, it looks as though Travis has just pinched the pockets there and moved his way up into 4th position. As we see NRP run super wide, manages to get himself back on track without any complications, but that's going to hurt his run on this one, and it looks as though the rest of the pack is now jumping all over it. So Travis makes his way into 3rd place, Uniclark in 4th with XPT in 5th, and NRP falling back now into 6th position. Looks as though he's just traded places though, up the inside there, managing to get himself into 5th. So it looks as though Thorsten Smith has also got himself within fighting distance here of Duftinho, currently sat within half a second of the current championship and race leader here. Continue to monitor all of the gaps as they come on, but looks as though big battles going on for 8th position. In fact, it looks as though 7th to 12th is really tightly knit here, between less than 2 seconds between them. Let's have a look at how that one's transpiring. You see Bruce Law there just gets a tap, and it's going to tag him all the way round. Looks as though Fast As Gamer spun him over. Bruce Law gets himself straightened back out and running once again. It looks as though Fast As has slowed down to allow Bruce to come through. That's exactly what we want to see in terms of this. Whenever there is contact, we want to see that driver, when they know that they're at fault, allowing whoever they've just made contact with to pass. Makes our jobs a hell of a lot easier to try and manage these drivers, that's for sure. Bruce Law will still be livid though. It doesn't look as though he's had a very good start in this sprint race around the Algarve. Goonies never say die though, and he's got plenty of time to try and make it up. 16 minutes remaining of the session. And looks as though he's only within 1 second or so of Evan. In fact, it looks as though he's even less than, so he's raining down on Evan at the moment for 11th place. And knowing the speed and pace of Bruce Law, he'll be able to make up those positions in no time at all. So we're currently tracking Uniclark around. We've got Travis just ahead of him inside his Nissan GTR. In fact, let's have a look at the front as Thorsten now piles on the pressure of Duftinho. Getting very, very close indeed. So it looks as though Thorsten Smith is licking his chops. He wants that first position. Got 15 minutes to do it, but Duftinho definitely isn't going to give it up without a fight. So looking at the lap times, looks as though Travis is currently our purple lap leader with a 151.3. That's significant because of course there is going to be a bonus point available to whoever sets the fastest lap throughout this session, and indeed for the feature race session. I'm wondering whether or not there was potentially a slowdown there. I saw a few flashes of the lights from Thorsten Smith. Don't know if he's signalling me or perhaps just catching his thumb as he frantically tries to battle that Lamborghini Huracan around this wet quarter-mile circuit. Can see some puddles forming up on that long sweeping right-hander. Final corner of the circuit, turn number 15. Generally flat out. I'm wondering whether or not they're going to have to lift once those puddles begin to build up ever so slightly. Let's have a look at the action as it builds on. We will continue to monitor the split times between first and second. It does look as though we've got a big battle for 8th place. It looks as though Alright Turkish in the Audi R8 with Herlo chasing him down in his Bentley, and then Traven in 10th place at the moment, also looking to get in on some of that action. Looks as though Duftinho's starting to pull his lap times down even more, trying to extend that split ahead of Thorsten Schmidt at the moment. We'll continue to monitor it. At the moment, looks as though Turkish is able to pull away from Hurlo in 9th and just get a little bit of breathing room inside the Audi R8. Let's have a look at the battle for 4th. Looks as though we've just tuned in at the right time as XPT moves that Ferrari up the inside of Uniclark. It looks as though he's going to get that move done. He is now on the optimum line. Let's have a look at how these two are both attacking the course. We'll jump into chase cam at the moment. So Uniclark having a little sniff up the inside there, under braking. It doesn't look as though he's going to get it done. However, XPT just treading the line on the track limits. I wonder whether or not there's going to be a warning or potentially a penalty there. Really tricky section, this one. Hard on the brakes, trying to keep the inside line is a lot easier said than done, as it's an off-camber right-hander, and then this is the one that's usually flat out. You can just see those portals forming there. It looks as though it's all the way across the track, so it's not as though you can avoid the apex to try and get around them, but Uniclark looks as though he's taken that place back with relative ease. We have of course got XPT and his Ferrari right in the slipstream though. He's going to move over to the inside, and it looks as though he's going to trade over that place once again. And a bit of contact there between the two drivers, but no harm, no foul it seems. Thorsten Schmidt has got himself within 0.3 of a second off the leader. Let's flick over to those two. So looking at the split times, looks as though we've got Thorsten ever so slightly quicker in Sector 2 and Duftinho just edging it out in Sectors 1 and 2. So that's where we're seeing them closing the gap and then extending it out even more. I've got J Palm on the stream as usual. Good to see you this evening, J Palm. Asking more about this this Portimao circuit in the Algarve. Unfortunately, don't have a great deal of information about this circuit. I do believe it was finished in around about 2002, so one of the more recent additions in the Project Cars 2 lineup that we have here is of course a custom-made circuit, as you can tell from the layout of this. One very interesting fact about the circuit though, it cost 195 million euros to build, and that includes all of its subsidiary buildings. But more interesting than that is they actually managed to begin and end construction, get this track fully commissioned within 7 months, which is no mean feat for any major engineering project, that's for sure. But yeah, from start to finish, including all of the subsidiary buildings, built within 7 months. And we see there Duftinho ran super wide. Is that going to allow Duftinho in? It looks as though Duftinho's defending a couple of different lines there. A little bit cheeky with the changes of direction, as it looked as though he potentially had a slowdown. He's managed to keep his way in front. He won't get away with many of those, that's for sure. So yeah, just to conclude, J Palm, don't know a great deal more about this circuit, unfortunately, apart from the number of turns. As I mentioned earlier, 15 turns around this circuit, with many changes in elevation. Thorsten Schmidt now looks as though he's dropped off. I'm wondering whether or not track limit breaches assisting in this gap forming up between himself and Duftinho. We'll have to wait and see. But let's have a quick look at the time, and no penalties to speak of as of yet here, within the top 10 at least. So let's have a little bit of a move down the pack. We will continue to monitor the distance between these two, but we've currently got Lionsfoot being hunted down by Alright Turkish, it seems. In fact, I beg your pardon, it looks as though Lionsfoot's currently trying to hunt down NRP. Do beg your pardon, there's quite a considerable gap there, around about 3 seconds difference between Lionsfoot and Turkish in 7th and 8th. Here's Lionsfoot starting to find his feet inside that Ferrari. Looks as though he's able to make some gains on the very well equipped and well-versed AMG of NRP. We'll definitely be happy with this. So the battle for first place is down to 3/4 of a second. It was going up a little bit higher. I'm sure that we'll see that come right down again. All of the lap times do seem to be dropping off at the moment. Just trying to pull up now the information on the fastest lap. So it still is being held by Travis at the moment with a 151.3. So as the rain has rained down, it looks as though this track is starting to lose a little bit of speed. Even Duftino in his battles with Thorsten Schmidt currently unable to match that lap time. So obviously these guys losing a little bit of pace as the rain continues to pour down here. So the rest of the guys look to have found themselves evened out. VMX has fallen way behind the pack. I wonder whether or not he sustained a little bit of damage. We saw him drop right down the pack at the very start of this sprint race. So I wonder whether or not a little bit of damage has been caused there, and that's just multiplied that split time between himself and the 13th place of Evan. Looks as though Dark Ninja didn't make it too far into the race. Don't know whether or not that was a disconnect or whether or not he's had to retire. So let me bring up the timing board. Let's have a look at the rest of this. See whether or not we've had any changes. Any penalties added. Doesn't look as though we have throughout all of the field at the moment. So let's return then to our leaders. 7 minutes remaining of this sprint race session as we see both of our drivers running very wide there on turn 15 on the final turn on the run up to the start finish line. I know that's definitely going to be a slowdown for Thorsten. Whether or not it is as well for Duftino, we'll have to wait and see. At the last lap times, looks as though Thorsten lost out around about a third of a second altogether on the last lap of Duftino. Wonder whether or not it was just that wide running into out of turn 15, should I say. It looks as though that lead has now been extended due to that slowdown penalty over a second now, with a little bit of breathing room ahead for Duftino. It is going to have to take a mistake, I think. The rest of the pack look to all be pretty evenly spaced out now. Found their running positions, so just to have a quick run through on our current running order into the final 5.5 minutes of this sprint race. We've got Duftino leading it out ahead of Thorsten Schmidt. We then got Travis in third place with its PT in fourth. Then it's down to fifth place Uniclark. 6 is NRP. He looks to have extended his gap a little bit, ahead of Lionsfoot in 7th place. Then Turkish. Alright, Turkish currently going quite well in 8th position there. That'll be a very good finish for him if he can make it stick. Then Hurlo, our latest addition to the Gt3 Championship, in 9th place. Then we've got Traven in 10th with Fast As Gamer in 11th. Bruce Law unfortunately getting pushed around and T-boned. He's currently sat in 12th place with Evan in 13th and VMX Rider in 14th position, which is last on the grid at the moment. Looks as though we've got a little bit of action coming up between Uniclark and NRP. Looks to be quite far away at the moment, but NRP looks to have gained up some time on Uniclark in that Bentley. So we'll monitor this and keep an eye out on the splits against our leaders at the moment. Go through this, couple of facts about the GT3 season. In season 3, so the only people to have won any of our sprint and features, it's been evenly shared between Thorsten Schmidt and Duftino. So altogether that transpires as 3 wins apiece between the two. Nobody else managing to beat them in any of the races so far. But when we have a look at the fastest laps throughout all of the races. Thorsten Smith actually tops it, so Thorsten Smith's able to pull those laps out of the bag in terms of bonus points. Thorsten Smith with a fastest lap percentage of 83.3%, with Duftinho making up the rest, so nobody else either able to get hold of that fastest lap bonus point. And that's what makes today's race quite significant, with Travis able to pull out that 1 minute 51.3, looking to upset the current records being held by these guys, as he's currently on track for the first non-Duftinho or Thorsten Smith fastest lap in any of our Season 3 races. Of course, there are 3 minutes to go, and it looks as though Duftinho is able to just bring his lap times down ever so slightly. He's still not matching his laps that he managed to achieve in lap 2 it was, with a 1:56. Oh sorry, I beg your pardon, let me just switch over to him and try and pull up the information. I do believe it was lap 2 though, where Duftinho is currently on a 1:51.59 on his fastest lap. Let's get back to that action. Looks as though Uniclark's now pulled up a pretty comfortable gap ahead of NRP, so it looks as though that battle's off for now. 2 minutes 30 seconds remaining inside this session, and just got himself within the window to get the notification across. He's still a couple of seconds, maybe a second and a half actually off the pace though. Let's have a look at what Turkish is doing. Looks as though he's managed to get himself right up behind Lion's Foot. So Audi R8 of All Right Turkish hunting down around the outside the red Ferrari of Lion's Foot at the moment. See that huge puddle forming up there on the outside. You definitely don't want to catch that. That's going to spin you around in a terrible place. It's going to put you into the sand on the approach to that corner. Let's see whether or not Turkish can make it up in the braking. Looks as though he's going to hunt down that inside line early onto the brakes to make sure that he can make it, but there's a huge puddle there. He manages to keep it on the straight and narrow though. No spinning there from him. So as though Lion's Foot was able to get the power down a little bit quicker though. So 1.5 minute remaining of this. Let's have a look at... In fact, no, we'll stick with this battle at the moment. I was going to say, keep an eye out between NRP and Uniclark. NRP is still hot on the tails of Uniclark. As we see Lion's Foot there, looks as though we've messed it up, and they come together. Lion's Foot ended up having to adjust his line, it seemed, maybe after braking, maybe getting a little bit of a slide on, and he comes together with All Right Turkish. Hopefully not causing too much damage, and it looks as though they're going to go at this with gritted teeth. It's going to go all the way down to the wire. They're going to have another lap to try and duke it out, I think, with 50 seconds remaining of this. Let's jump back into trackside, try and get a better view of it. It looks as though these two battling, and the potential the contact has allowed Herlo now to join in the fight as well for 7th place. So 2 new additions looking to take out Lion's Foot 7th place by the end of this race. However, in the meantime, our current race leader is just going past Sector 1. So Turkish having a little look at the inside. Looks as though Duftinho's got this one done. He's currently 2 seconds ahead of Thorsten Smith. Lion's Foot still being chased down by Herlo now, as we see Turkish just got a little bit messy coming out a couple of corners before, and that's allowed Herlo to jump on through. Herlo now looks as though he's managed to take that place. So Herlo goes into 7th place, Lion's Foot drops down to 8th, and now Turkish is going to have to battle Lion's Foot for that 8th position. So let's jump over to our leader. We can see there the distance that he's managed to make up above Thorsten Smith. He has one more corner to go. He's now approaching turn 15. He's about to come down the hill, and it looks as though he's about to take his first victory of the evening. Our current championship leader, Duftinho, takes this first race with relative ease here, ahead of his closest competitor, Thorsten Smith, in 2nd place. Looks as though Travis is going to pick up that bonus point for the fastest lap, and also going to pick up the points for 3rd position, so a great finish from him. Let's have a look now with It's BT about to come over the crest of the hill, I think. In fact, it looks as though he's already come down it. He crosses the line in 4th position. NRP unable to get past Uniclark, it seems. Clark reaching ahead into 5th position. We saw a valiant battle there about midway through this race, but him just getting the better of our lead coordinator in that AMG in the end. Hurlo looks as though he secured 7th position ahead in that final lap, should I say, ahead of Lionsfoot finishing in 8th, and Alright Turkish ends up taking 9th position. Battered and bruised Bruce Law there, not appearing it too much, but I suspect that there was some suspension damage caused with that T-boning that he took from Fast As Gamer, as Fast As looked as though he just spun it around. So Bruce Law ended up hitting him head on right into the midriff, and I'm sure it would have caused at least marginal suspension damage. Bruce Law does enough for 11th place, with Matthew aka Fast As Gamer securing 12th. Evan looks as though he's just come around, or just coming over the final turn now for 13th position. And it doesn't look as though VMX is going to cross the line in time, looking at the splits. So we're just going to wait for this timer to peter out. But 13th place for our Irish driver, driving for Irish TV. And there are your official standings. Duftinho takes 1st place with Thorsten Smith in 2nd. Travis, as I mentioned earlier, doing everything he can in that GTR for 3rd place. It's PT in the Ferrari, ends up finishing in 4th. Clark ends up in 5th with NRP just behind him. Hurlo does enough for 7th. Lionsfoot ends up winning the battle between Turkish for securing 8th position. And we've got Traven in 10th, Bruce Law in 11th. Fast As Gamer finishing in 12th, with Evan and VMX finishing up the running order. So that's all from the sprint race. It looks as though from the forecast the rain is going to blow over. Looks as though we're forecast for overcast conditions, so track temperatures are likely to be low for our double length feature race that will be coming up very shortly. In the meantime, let me know what your predictions are going to be for the 2nd race. Are we going to have another race like last week, where Duftinho and Thorsten Smith both take a race victory, one apiece? Or are we going to see Duftinho end up with a back-to-back brace of wins here at the Autodromo International do Algarve? We'll have to wait and see. We'll have a break of around about 10 minutes. Allow these boys to get themselves a drink, get themselves a little bit of comfort. In the meantime, let me tell you a little bit more about what we do here at Rubbins Racing whilst you guys wait. So, if you haven't seen any of our streams before, we are a clean racing community. We offer all sorts of community races on a day-to-day basis. So if you drive Project Cars 2, no matter which class you are, on the PlayStation 4, then be sure to get yourself over to www.rubbinsracing.co.uk. You'll find a lot more information there on what it is that we do. We do try and broadcast as many of our races as we can accommodate. We are looking to broadcast even more though, so if you think that you can do a better job at commentary than me, I'm sure it wouldn't be hard, then also get yourself over to www.rubbinsracing.co.uk. You'll find some contact details there. All that we ask is that you've got yourself a PlayStation 4 along with Project Cars 2. Even if you don't want to commit to any form of league racing, we'd be happy to try and get you on board inside our commentary team. That being said though, if you want to try and improve your maybe race etiquette, try and work on your setups, and you want to try and find a friendly bunch of guys to discuss these with, or maybe to try and compete with on a weekly basis, what we'd do is we'd get you to join up through our Discord. You'd then have to sit an evaluation drive with a member or two of our staff team, and what we look out there is general cleanliness, your ability to hold your race in line, and then once you're through the door, through your evaluation, you're then free to roam all of the different Discord channels that Rubbins Racing has to offer. We do, of course, have a hot lap challenge every single week set by Demobi, where he sets put the challenge to any of our drivers, where we seem to be breaking world record after world record through any of our drivers that seem to attempt these hot lap challenges, different car and different track every single week. And let me tell you, it never seems to be an easy one. As well as this, of course, we do have the championship races that I mentioned earlier. So I'll give you another run through those. On Tuesday nights, it's our Rubbins Racing Touring Car and Clio Cup events. They currently run at the same time, but we are looking at splitting those up. Coming into next season, which will we currently have 2 more weeks after this race here, remaining of our season. We'll then be beginning our special events in the mid-season break before we go into season 4. So then we have a day's rest on a Wednesday, and then it's just in time for our Thursday night lights. As I mentioned earlier, different track in a different car every single week. Love to try and get our drivers that aren't involved in the championship involved with that, just to try and pit themselves against one another, maybe get themselves used to being broadcast live on YouTube, or get themselves used to our full race conditions here at Rubbins Racing. Then on Friday, it's time for our Gt3 Championship. Really popular one, this one, as with all of our same car championships. Of course, the difference being your setups in terms of the paces. And then on Saturday, it's our Indycar Championship. That one not currently broadcast, but we are hoping to try and change that. That runs at 8 o'clock, same time that you're watching this one. And then on Sunday, 2 different championships to sink your teeth into. 10:30 a.m. UK time is the Formula Renault Championship. So if you're an open wheel fan, you can get stuck into that. And then once we have our Formula 1 Championship back on air after this global pandemic has started to die down, then you should have that finished just in time to get yourself settled in front of the TV for any of the European races on the F1. Then at 8 o'clock in the evening, it's this race right here. It's the Gt3 Championship. Very popular, this one. Usually has a long waiting list. We are looking to try and extend this ever so slightly, with reserve races being run in the background. But if you're a GT3 race fan, as is much of the Project Cars 2 community, and you think that you can beat any of these boys that are out on track, then by all means get yourself involved, put your name down, and we'll try and get you head to head against these guys and get you involved into the Rubbins Racing Gt3 Championship. So we've got J Palm asking about the current standings inside the Hot Lap Challenge for this week. Just pulling up the information at the moment. So as my screen loads, we are currently taking, I think they might well be, just having a check against the cars. So yeah, we're currently taking BMW V12 Le Mans cars around the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps circuit. Just having a look across the driver times at the moment. I see why J Palm was asking this question. Looks as though he's currently ahead of the pack at the moment with a 2 minutes 4 seconds .860. So well done, that man. That is definitely a time to beat. And for any of the viewers watching, get yourselves into time trial mode on Project Cars 2. The car is a BMW V12 Le Mans, taken around Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, and if you can beat a 2 minute 4 second .86, then you're definitely up there with the best of our boys and looking to try and set yourself some world record times. So by all means, get yourself involved. If you're not already, get your times posted inside our Hot Lap Challenge time and get yourself pinned up in recognition across the entirety of our community. So as the break starts to peter out now, just to run through our running order into tonight's feature race. Because he finished last, he is of course going to lead out our feature race tonight. BMX Rider is going to start in first position with Evan in second. Fast As Gamer is going to be in third place with Bruce Law in fourth. Then it's going to be fifth place to Traven, sixth to All Right Turkish, and then seventh to Lions for eighth to Hurlo. Ninth place is going to be led out by NRP, who is of course going to be ahead of Uniclark. Its PT is then going to be just slightly ahead of Travis, who's going to be ahead of course, Thorsten Smith with Duftinho at the back. If you didn't catch it before, our feature race does feature a mandatory pit stop. We are, of course, going to have the same damage settings that we had previously, and you can see there in the forecast, no rain to feature in tonight's feature. 23 laps has been set by the lead coordinator. So are we going to have tactical pit stops coming in? I think the ones to look out for in terms of this one, you'll definitely be hoping for a better start to this next upcoming race. It's going to be Bruce Law. He definitely has a lot of pace, and he's going to have a good starting position in fourth place. Also, Matthew, aka Fast AF Gamer, he's going to be starting in third. He had bags of pace as well. He just got himself wrapped up around Bruce Law within the opening few laps of that sprint race, and that's why I think they feature so far down the bottom. We saw very little in the way of mistakes being made and spin-outs in that sprint race. So a lot of the boys managing to keep it on the straight and narrow. Let me get back onto my YouTube stream so that I can see your comments. Got a few more minutes to go for this one. So by all means, ladies and gents, you go put the kettle on. You're going to have enough time to make yourself a cup of tea. And I'm going to just grab a quick drink and a puff on my puffer. And I will be back with you in a couple of minutes for tonight's feature race. So ladies and gents, the drivers are on their 1 minute warning from the lead coordinator here. You'll start to see plenty of thumbs going up. These drivers ready up for tonight's feature race. So let me know your predictions. Remember, Travis had the fastest lap in that sprint race. Of course, very different conditions when it comes down to the feature. We'll see whether or not that Nissan GTR has got the pace to keep up with the big boys. inside the Lamborghini Huracans. So all our drivers are now readied up. We'll get ourselves into the lobby. Fingers crossed. There we go. So once again, folks, let me know your predictions for tonight's feature. Might want to watch. Certainly going to be Bruce Law, although can he keep up with the blistering pace of Thorsten and Duftinio? Is Travis also going to be able to keep up? We'll have to wait and see. He's going to start at the back with Thorsten and Duftinio. Hopefully no bumping causing any accidents. Have to wait and see. Let's get myself retired and get ourselves onto the grid. These guys have 2 minutes to set the cars up, fill up with fuel for this 23 lap race. They are going to come into the pits, but they're going to want to try and keep the pit stops as quick as possible. A lot of drivers will be trying to hope for the optimum 2% engine damage, get themselves in and out in a second or less. Just to remind you, ladies and gents, of our running order in tonight's feature, you're going to see the lights go out, you're going to see the seas part, and you're going to see VMX Rider head on up to the front of the pack, followed by Evan, who's going to be followed by third place Fast As Gamer, with Bruce Law behind him. Then it's going to be Traven behind Bruce Law, with Alright Turkish behind Traven. Then Lion's Foot behind Alright Turkish, followed by Hurlo, who's going to be followed by NRP. We're then going to have Uniclark, I believe, behind NRP, with its PT following Uniclark, Travis behind its PT, and then Thorsten, followed by Duftinio at the back of the grid. We will wait until the cars come around the final corner, but with this particular track layout, plenty of opportunity for them all to keep up in terms of the pace at the front. So when first place puts his foot down, the race will be on, but there will be no overtaking until they reach that start-finish line. When we get a full green flag and the race is officially on. Got Tom O'Hanlon watching for Travis. Wishing him the best of luck. We'll have to wait and see how this one goes out. Definitely in with a shout though. These guys move across. Part the seas for that yellow AMG GT of VMX to make its way through. We're going to settle into the pace now, around about 60 miles an hour. Try and get the brakes up to temperature in time for turn one, whilst also trying to wear those tyres down as little as possible. Tyres of course already starting out warm in time for the race. We're going to want to make sure that we keep wear down as little as possible. But whilst we're going out on this run up, let's have a look at what tyres everybody's opting for. I imagine that there's going to be hard slicks. Looking at the track temperatures, it looks as though it is at the moment. None of the drivers opt in for the riskier soft slicks. I just don't think that would make them work on this circuit. I'll keep the map on there for you, ladies and gents. Give you plenty of notice when we come around that final corner. We're ready to get this race all the way. As we approach the final corner, the drivers will settle into a 2x2 file. Eagerly watching that yellow Mercedes AMG. BMX rider waiting for that moment that he puts the foot down so that they can all follow in. And the second to last at the moment, looks as though the cars are all keeping up in quite a good bunch. Coming around the final corner, the rest of the cars are going to bunch up as close as they can now. Waiting for that moment. BMX decides that the race is on. And it looks as though he's put his foot down. The race is underway here. We'll go trackside. Keep an eye out on all of the pack. Plenty of movement coming around. Looks as though Lionsfoot has put himself up the inside there as he comes across, and it's caused absolute chaos. Bruce Law getting himself taken out with that one. Both Lionsfoot and Bruce Law falling all the way down to the back of that pack. Bruce Law must be thinking to himself, what has he got to do? So Fast As Gamer leads the way with Alright Turkish behind him. NRP's managed to make his way into third position. So it's been a bit of a gift for Alright Turkish and NRP here. Looks as though Bruce Law and Lionsfoot are now back on track, moving, but they are a considerable distance behind the rest of the field. Let's have a little bit of a look. It looks as though Fast As Gamers managed to make up 2 seconds now to the second place of Alright Turkish. We have got a battle going on between Alright Turkish and NRP at the moment. NRP in the blue Mercedes, Alright Turkish in that red Audi R8. NRP looks up the inside. Great move there. Manages, so long as he manages to keep his braking on order, and he has done indeed. Saw a slightest of gaps up the inside and makes it count there. Didn't want to get stuck behind Turkish for long, because otherwise Fast As Gamer is just going to make up leaps and bounds in terms of his lead. Let's have a look a little bit further down the pack. So Alright Turkish is now being hunted down by Traven. Hurlo's closely following him inside that white Bentley. We just saw him coming into the shot there. In fact, let's jump into the chase cam and have a little bit of a look further down this field. So currently in the chase of Unicar, ahead of him that is Travis inside that Nissan GTR, and just ahead of him is Hurlo inside the white Bentley. You can just see him there on the right hand side. Looks as though VMX and Thorsten Smith have made early pit stops along with Bruce Law here, so 3 guys coming in at the end of lap 1. 4 now with Lionsfoot. Looks as though Lionsfoot's potentially caught some pretty heavy damage here, whereas Thorsten Smith is just looking to try and make the best of his track position, get himself out into clear air so that he can start to put some laps in. Let's have a look. Duftino has managed to make his way up into 9th position. Uniclark is currently being hassled by Travis. Looks as though Travis is up the inside. He's going to make this one stick, I think. Indeed got himself ahead as he approaches the right-hander though. We're going to see a move up the inside by Uniclark. I don't think we have. And Travis is once again holding up the inside line into this tricky right-hander. It looks as though our 4 drivers are now out of the pits. Thorsten Smith with bags of clear air, and then VMX and Bruce Law just behind him. Looks as though Lionsfoot is around about 20 seconds or so, maybe a little bit less, maybe 17 seconds behind the 14th place of Bruce Law. Let's get back up to the action at the front. So Travis is still duking it out with Uniclark at the moment as they come down the final corner into the start-finish straight. Got another car there darting into the pit lane, as well as Fast As Gamer. He's decided to pit quite early from the front. And Duftinio is also into the pits. Early pit stops from those guys then. So currently 10th place and below have made their pit stops. Everyone above that position is yet to make their mandatory pit. So NRP leads this race with a 4.5 second lead at the moment. He is also our fastest lap of the race with a 1:45.666. He's also going quicker than that as well now that he's got some clear air. Let's have a look at the battle for 4th position. Jay Palm there recognising that fantastic battle between the Bentley and the GTR. I've got to admit, it really is looking pretty tasty indeed. So Travis leading this one, just 4/10 separating him and the Bentley of Uniclark at the moment in 5th position. You see the difference there in braking. Looks as though It's PT has also gained himself involved in the action, maybe just overbroke himself a little bit, ended up losing ever just a little bit of time, I think, a little bit of momentum as Uniclark looks up the inside of Travis, and it looks as though he's got that move done. He's going to hold on to it though. The little bit of contact between the two, no harm, no foul there though. Just rubbing each other's wing mirrors, making sure that they're still there. So as this battle continues, looks as though It's PT is managing to soften that gap between the two. In fact, it looks as though he's about to come alongside Uniclark in the Bentley. So we see Travis there making a move up the inside, having a little look around Traven. It looks as though he's managed to get it done. So 2nd place is currently Alright Turkish ahead in that Audi R8. Let's jump into the chase cam of this one. So currently in the chase mode of It's PT, we can see him battling alongside Traven. Looks as though he's just got the run on Traven. Ahead of him, that is Travis in the GTR and Alright Turkish in that Audi R8. Looks as though that Ferrari's great on the brakes. Is it going to be good? Pulling away from that hairpin. Looks as though he managed to get it done. Let's have a look, a couple of places back. So we're currently now on the Bentley of Uniclark. NRP has now got 8 seconds ahead of this pack that we're currently following. Alright Turkish at the front of that pack, just hitting that apex. With Travis behind him, It's PT, and then Traven ahead of Uniclark at the moment inside that Lamborghini Huracan, the black and orange livery. NRP's just set the fastest lap last time around with a 1:44.6. Try and work upon these laps, try and build up as much of a gap as possible, hoping to try and get himself a free pit stop come the end of this race. Traven there looks as though he's just run a little bit wide, and that's allowed Uniclark to pass on through. Let's jump back to trackside and try and get a view of these guys. Traven has decided to come into the pits. I was wondering where he disappeared to there at the back of the shop, but he's decided now is the time to make his pit stop. I've got the black white AMG, is it? I've Dark Ninja right behind them. Let's look back up into 3rd position as Travis looks to try and take on Alright Turkish. Turkish cuts across the line there, looks to try and get very aggressive on defence. Hard pressed to try and fight these boys off, and it looks as though Travis in his battle attempts on Turkish has actually lost out on a position to It's PT and that white Ferrari. That white Ferrari now hunting down Alright Turkish. As though we've had an absolute disaster for Evan. Fortunately, his hardware failing him Seems as though he's one analog stick short of a control pad here. He was going to pick up a new G29 wheel setup. Doesn't look as though he's managed to get it in time for tonight's race. So unfortunate there from the Irish driver. Not going to be able to pick up any points from this feature. Its PT now sits in second place, and it looks as though Turkish has dropped all the way down to 5th in that battle. So NRP now has 10.5 seconds ahead of the second place of its PT. Just trying to bring up his previous lap data. Just going to have to switch to him for the time being whilst I pull these ones up. So NRP, the last lap around. Looks as though he's bang on with the pace. Currently 144.8 last time around. His fastest lap in comparison was a 144.6. So if he can continue to keep this pace, he may well be in with a shout with that free pit stop. One that you need to keep an eye out though is Duftino at the moment has actually broken the lap record with a 143.4 as my telemetry catches up. It wasn't the last lap, but the lap previous to it, Duftino actually set that 143.4. So as the rest of the field picks up, we are following Duftino at the moment. He looks as though he's taking on Thorsten Smith. So these two battling out for the championship and now battling out on track. It's a role reversal of what we saw in the sprint race. So Thorsten currently ahead of Duftino, and he won't want to give him that position away very easily, as we hear just a little bit of lock up there under brakes. Not sure which Lamborghini that came from. As I say, Duftino will be hungry for that position, and Thorsten will know that if he loses it, it's going to be really hard to get that position back. Let's bring up the timing whilst we've got the little opportunity as Duftino looks up the inside. Thorsten Smith gets his pocket pinched. Is he going to try and pull off an undercut? It doesn't look as though he's going to have the opportunity to, so Duftino moves ahead of Thorsten. Really does pick his pocket there. Didn't look as though there was a gap, but he managed to find himself one. And I was expecting Thorsten to come around that corner a lot sooner. I wonder if he's caught a little bit of grass there, maybe at risk of spinning it. I did see a cone fly across, but unfortunately the camera didn't pan over. So Thorsten there has now lost out on around about 4.5 seconds, 5 seconds it seems, to Duftino. So I'm expecting there was a little bit of a wobble, maybe catching a bit too much grass. Managing to catch it though, so he hasn't lost out entirely. As Dark Ninja now enters the pit. I'm sure that's going to see him down in last position by the time Lionsfoot comes around. So NRP is still leading it, 10 seconds his lead at the moment. We have a look at the rest of the guys that haven't yet pitted. He's got 34 seconds ahead of Duftino. Duftino, the best of all of the drivers that have currently made their mandatory pit stop. So Hurlo, Alright Turkish, Uniclark, Travis, It's PT and NRP yet to make their pits in tonight's feature. As expected, Dark Ninja finds himself at the back of the pack as he now returns to the racetrack. All sorts of rhymes going on there, all of them unintentional, I guarantee you. And Uniclark decides it's now time for him to pit. That beautiful Bentley comes in to make his pit stop. Let's continue to monitor this. So does Hurlo. So this is going to be Duftino's opportunity to get past them all. Let's keep an eye out on how quick this pit stop's going to be from Uniclark. Ah, it's a quick one. Definitely less than a second there. Looks as though he's made best use of the 2% damage rule. Duftino's just come hooning past. And it looks as though Thorsten Smith as well has managed to slot in ahead of Uniclark. Uniclark got ahead of Traven and ahead of Hurlo out of the pits. So that puts Duftino in 5th position. The 4 drivers ahead of him yet to make the mandatory pit stop. And the 33.4 seconds is the crucial one at the moment. NRP currently 33.8 now, ahead of what I would call the provisional leader, ahead of this one. So NRP could potentially get a free pit stop. Just wants to try and time it so he doesn't find himself coming out ahead of back markers. That is going to slow him down and put him right in the firing line of these 2 very quick drivers. Fastest lap of the race is still Dovtinho on lap 6, I believe, with a 1:43.4. Looks as though NRP is really close to that. He's not far off the pace at all. Around about 0.8 of a second off that fastest lap pace last time around. I beg your pardon, that was the fastest lap last time around. It was about 1.5 seconds off that pace. So it looks as though Bruce has managed to recover his race ever so slightly. He's currently sat in 10th position, just ahead of Fast As Gamer inside that BMW M6. Let's have a look at Fast As Gamer's lap times. He's gone green last time around. Set his fastest lap of the race last time around, a 1:46.2. Bruce Law in comparison a 1:45.9, so Bruce is looking to close up that gap as much as possible. Let's jump back to our leader. Sizable gap there between NRP and the second place of It's PT. 11 seconds currently. He's got 32 seconds lead ahead of the provisional leader, what I call the provisional leader anyway, of our driver that has made his mandatory pit stop. It is of course Dovtinho ahead of that pack, 32 seconds behind NRP at the moment, with the second place of Thorsten Schmidt 39.5 seconds behind our current leader. So all of these guys now looking to find themselves in a bit of space. You can see it there from the map. Plenty of gaps forming up between these drivers. They all settle into the race. This is where concentration plays in. We are, of course, on lap 11 of 23 laps of the evening. So plenty to go here. Well, I've got a little bit of time. Let me remind you of our website if you want to get any more information, or if you enjoy the content that we put out here on Rubbins Racing TV on our YouTube channel and you'd like to donate to the cause, then head on over to www.rubbinsracing.co.uk. Please remember that all donations that are made into our community do get fed back into that community, whether or not that is in our prize events or in modifications to our systems to try and bring you the best services that we can. You will find plenty of information there about what we do. We are looking to try and update the website as much as possible. But of course, if you think that you can help us in terms of commentary, web design, or any of the organisation roles within running a clean racing community, then head on over to that website. I'll remind you of it again, www.rubbinsracing.co.uk, and you'll find a contact us section in there. Feel free to contact us. That goes straight through to our staff team. We're happy to answer all inquiries that we get through. So back onto tonight's race. NRP has now got a shaven off lead ahead of Dovtinho. It's currently sat at just over 31.5 seconds currently. His pace is definitely looking good though. Last time around a 1:44.82. Dovtinho and Thorsten are going quicker than that. Both of those drivers last time around managing to get a 1:43.7. Thorsten actually managing to just better Dovtinho's time. But if he can continue with this sort of pace, he's going to find himself in a very good position as we see Travis now makes his pit stop in that Nissan GTR. Number 22 car just about to pull into the pits. We'll have to see how good of a stop it is. Pretty good stop indeed, around about the 1 second mark, so that's going to put him in a pretty good position. We are about to see Dovtinho though hurling past. It does look as though Travis is going to get himself ahead of Thorsten Schmidt though. Let's see whether or not he can make it count. No, he's not. Thorsten barreling past. In fact, Travis looks as though he's about to come back in an absolutely awful position. Finding himself in 6th at the moment. Can he get himself up to pace? In fact, I beg your pardon, that is a back marker of Dark Ninja, I do believe. So managing to hold on to 6th. Uniclark is raining down though in that silver and neon green Bentley. Not much of a gap at all as Dark Ninja makes way. He is of course under blue flags at the moment. Travis potentially having to make his pit stop, maybe due to a bit of engine damage. Didn't want to go over that 2%. He definitely found himself coming in at the wrong time. He was losing a little bit of time in terms of his laps to Duftinho and Thorsten. So maybe that was the one that prompted him to make the gap. He must have decided that he wasn't going to make it out ahead of them. So perhaps he can make it out just behind them. So it's PT and NRP yet to make their pit stops. I do believe Alright Turkish as well is yet to make his pit stop. All the rest of the drivers though have now made it, so only 3 drivers left to pit. So the gap between Duftinho and NRP at the moment now less than 31 seconds. Only just though 30.8 in the current split. Depending on his engine damage, NRP may still be able to sneak in a free pit stop, find himself ahead of the rest of the pack. We will monitor it when he decides to come on in, but it's going to be close. Pulling up his last lap data. He's looking pretty good in his sectors, but he is around about 1 second off the pace of Thorsten at the moment. In fact, Thorsten, last lap around, has gone purple with a 143.282 compared to Duftinho's 144.838. So that gap between them is definitely diminishing. Currently sat at around about 5 seconds between Duftinho and Thorsten. If Thorsten can pull in a few more laps like that though, I'm sure it's going to get even lower. Looks as though Duftinho has now got Alright Turkish for company. They are currently racing for position, even though Alright Turkish does have to make his mandatory pit stop yet. I'm sure he won't want to give away the position easily, but Duftinho, I imagine, will make relatively light work of it. Of course, he is a seasoned pro inside these GT3 cars. He'll just wait for an easy opportunity after he's got the measure of Alright Turkish's R8. In fact, it looks as though he's going to make it around the outside. And that looks as though it's job done here. Its PT has since come into the pits. Alright Turkish there almost making contact with Duftinho. That would have been an absolute horror show if he did. As though he managed to steer his way out of it. Its PT is now leaving the pits. It looks as though he's going to come out in 5th position, so a wide pit stop there from Its PT. So only 2 drivers now required to make their mandatory pit stop in the form of NRP and Alright Turkish. 1st and 3rd position. Looks as though Alright Turkish didn't hold up Duftinho too much for NRP. These 2 Silverstone stewards and track staff obviously not working in sync for one another. Loyalty is nothing when it comes down to this GT3 Championship. So NRP has a lot to do here to try and take hold of the race victory, but it's been a valiant effort. He's managed to maintain that 30-second or above gap between the 2 cars of Duftinho and Thorsten Smith pretty much throughout the entirety of this race. Remember, Alright Turkish came in after lap 1. I think Duftinho came in after lap 2. So those guys making their early pit stops. Let's have a look at this battle that's forming between 6th place of Travis. This has been going on for quite some time. We did also see it as well in the previous sprint race. The Bentley and the Nissan GTR duking it out. Lap after lap after lap, corner after corner, looking to try and get the measure of each other. In fact, let's just jump over to Thorsten Schmidt. Is he going to get past Alright Turkish with ease? These two currently battling for position. So Alright Turkish though will have to make his pit stop. Looks as though Turkish there getting a little bit sloppy on corner entry. Flashing his lights there, Thorsten Schmidt not happy with that. He has got past Turkish though, and he is able to build upon that. He's only lost around about half a second, it seems, between the split times of Duftino and himself though in that battle. So it hasn't cost him too much. Has still got a lot to do though, with only 8 laps remaining inside this race. Let's jump back to the battle for 6th place. So Travis is still leading Uniclark, who is still leading Traven in the Lamborghini Huracan just behind them. Looks as though he's managing to maintain that distance. Looks as though Bruce Law is challenging Fast As Gamer though in that M6. He's managed to get that lead right down. Less than half a second at the moment separates these two. Let's jump into the chase cam and let's have a look at the difference between these two drivers. Differences in technique, differences in braking, differences in line perhaps. Let's try and have a look at how these two cars handle their way around this Algarve circuit. In the meantime, let's pull up the fastest lap time. So Thorsten currently has the fastest lap still with a 1:43.282. Duftino was ever so slightly behind that. In fact, it looks as though it actually equated to around about 1.5 seconds lost in that last lap between Duftino and Thorsten. Thorsten, of course, losing out 1.5 seconds in that battle past the back marker. Alright Turkish has since come into the pits and he's dropped down to 10th position for it. Is he going to drop down any further? Looks as though it was quite a long pit stop. As we see Hurlo's Bentley now barreling down this start-finish line. Camera angles letting me down a little bit. That's currently VMX Rider. Let's see whether or not he's going to be able to get ahead of Alright Turkish. Doesn't look as though he is. He is closing in on him quite quickly though, as Turkish tries to wind up his car so as not to get chased down by that Bentley. Just skirting around a little bit, back end out of check. Hurlo managing to catch it quite well. And that is the power of a Fanatec CSL Elite there, able to catch that slide from a big old Bentley. Let's jump back to the battle between Fastaz and Bruce Law at the moment. So it's even closer now, just a couple of tenths separating them. Matthew, aka Fast AF Gamer, doing well to hold on to it. Looks as though we might well have just lost out though, because Bruce Law's got the inside line. He's going to hold it all the way around that, and he has got the inside on the next section, should I say. So Bruce Law moves his way up into 8th position after a disastrous start between him and Lionsfoot right in the opening of this race. Hurlo at the moment, he's just moving past the back marker of Dark Ninja, I do believe. Chasing down Alright Turkish in 10th position. We saw Turkish come out of the pits quite a distance ahead of Hurlo, but Hurlo was raining down, approaching his top end at the bottom of that straight, whereas Turkish had to wind his car up out of the pit lane. So NRP is yet to pit, our current race leader, yet to make his pit stop. He currently holds on to 27.3 seconds ahead of Duftino at the moment. Is it going to be enough though? Lap 17 of 23, 6 laps remain, and in fact it's going to be less than that, I'm sure. Just bring up a map on the telemetry, see where in fact NRP has just crossed the line, so entering lap 18. As we see Hurlo now making his way past Alright Turkish. That is a battle for 10th position. Dark Ninja looks as though he's having to pit again. He has already made his pit stop. I'm assuming that is for either damage repairs or fuel. Looks as though it is damage repairs. An unfortunate race for him. He's slipping further and further behind the field. Let's jump back up to the ever-going battle between Travis and Uniclark. This was pointed out by J Palm in the comments earlier. The epic battle between the Nissan GT-R and the Bentley, and it is still going on. Travis currently getting the better of Uniclark, as he has been for quite a proportion of this race. In fact, we can see its PT there in the foreground. So are they going to be able to catch up to the back of its PT? You can have a look at the lap times. Travis managing to set a 1:44.9 near enough last time around, so we're a couple of tenths quicker than its PT. So we see, oh, that Nissan GT-R gets very out of shape under braking. That's potentially going to allow Uniclark in to come alongside. Yes, indeed, as we see, Travis has to fall back in line to get into the slipstream. He did well to catch that GT-R, as it forgot it was a GT car for a second, thought it was inside a Drift Championship. Travis doing ever so well to hold it in and not lose much time. So let's jump back to our leader, who's just crossing the line. That is VMX in 12th place that he's about to approach, and he currently holds on to a 27-second, and it's getting less lead to Duftinho. Duftinho looks to have upped his game in terms of lap times last time around. Just bringing up the fastest lap. As we see Uniclark there gets disconnected. Uniclark, we've seen him battling with Travis inside that Bentley, gets disconnected. So that leaves Travis in 5th position with Traven just behind him. Really unfortunate there to see Uniclark getting booted out the lobby. He did really well just to finally get past Travis, and Travis has been given a gift now of 5th position. So NRP is holding on to a 26-second lead at the moment, ahead of Duftinho. He is, of course, yet to make his mandatory pit stop. Around about 9/10 slower last lap around than Duftinho. But he is about to, well, he's just set a purple sector in this current lap, according to the in-game telemetry. It's not showing up on mine, though, as a purple. Or a green, for that matter. So something's out of sync. Let's jump back to the battle of the TRAs. Travis ahead of Traven at the moment. Traven in the Lamborghini Huracan, Travis in the Nissan GT-R. Looks as though that GT-R stopped stepping out on him now. It looks to be handling a little bit different. I wonder whether or not he just overheated the tyres a little bit. Maybe caught himself under braking, put too much temperature into the tyre, and therefore it just came away from him a little bit. That back end is slipping out ever so little. Travis having to work hard to keep that car in check. So NRP's lead to Duftinho is now down to 25 seconds. Duftinho is able to put in some pretty quick laps. He's just outside of the purple lap time of Thorsten Smith that last time around. Duftinho setting a 1:43.375, the purple lap of Thorsten a 1:43.282. So Duftinho's doing all that he can to try and get that lead as little as possible, just in time for when NRP decides to make his pit. There are only 3 laps remaining of this race. He's going to have to make it very soon. I think either way, looking at the lap times, it's going to be a podium for NRP. I can't imagine he's got that much damage. He hasn't really been involved in any altercations with any other cars. He may well have a little bit of engine damage, but I'm sure with his Fanatec GT3 wheel, he'll have an option to try and disable all of the damage from his pit crew. He'll just want to try and get out as quick as possible, so no tyres, no fuel, no damage repairs if he can. In fact, NRP is now entering the pit lane. This is the crunch time, ladies and gents. We'll keep an eye out on Duftinho as that lead just plummets down. It's currently 10 seconds, I believe. It's a pretty slow pit. Looks as though there are some damage repairs, as we saw there Duftinho just coming over the start-finish straight, and NRP is just leaving the pit lane. He's now outside of the pit lane limiter. Looks as though he's about to come just ahead of Thorsten Schmidt, but Thorsten Schmidt is carrying a lot more speed. So NRP falls into third position. I'm sure he'll be happy enough with that, but he will still try and catch Thorsten come the end of this race. We've got 2 full laps remaining after this one, but Duftinho leads the race ahead of Thorsten Schmidt. He's got around about 6 seconds ahead of Thorsten. Then NRP is just around about 1.1 seconds behind Thorsten. So plenty to do. Let's have a look at how this battle transpires for 5th place between Travis and Traven. It was previously, of course, between Travis and Uniclark. Uniclark unfortunately getting disconnected from the race just a couple of laps ago. So the responsibility's now fallen on Traven to try and chase down that Nissan GTR. So Traven leading Travis in terms of the championship standings. So this will bring them a lot more even. Traven will come ahead, I do believe, although I can't remember his finishing position in the last race. I do think that he came out ahead of Travis, but I could well be wrong. The only battles to speak of at the moment. Dark Ninja's found himself almost 7 minutes behind the leader. He's currently on lap 16. Quite a few laps behind. I think a few complications and quite a bit of damage has seen him fallen back. So we'll just try and get his pit information up. I know he's made at least 2 pit stops. So in the battle for first place, Thorsten has managed to get it down to 5.5 seconds away from Duftinho. He's putting in some quicker laps, but Duftinho is just pipping him ever so slightly. He is now on lap 22 of 23. Penultimate lap now for Duftinho as he just comes to the end of sector 1. And it looks as though our Czech Republic driver is set for a race of back-to-back victories here at the Algarve GP circuit. Really has had an absolute stormer. I think plenty of practice has gone on, a little bit of luck as well, but don't let it take anything away from him. Thorsten only lost out on a 1.5 seconds, as we saw in that battle with backmarkers. Duftinho really has made this race his own. NRP did a valiant effort at holding them off. Potentially just came in a little bit late once that gap got too short. He also had quite an extended pit stop as well. But Duftinho is about to cross the line into the final lap of tonight's feature. There we go, crossing the line, final lap time is on. We can just see Thorsten in the background there. He's got 5 seconds to make up. It's going to take something catastrophic from Duftinho. So whilst we've got a little bit of time, let's jump into the cockpit view of Duftinho, get a better view of this as he takes this lap around. This brace of wins, remember ladies and gents, it's 35 points for a race victory in the Robbins Racing Leagues. So that's going to be 70 points. He had a total of 28 points lead ahead of Thorsten by the end of this. Thorsten is going to pick up a fastest lap, but we did see Duftinho, I believe, did he qualify this one first? I can't remember the qualifying positions. In fact, he didn't. He didn't. So Duftinho wasn't able to pick up the qualifying, I don't believe. So that 28 point deficit is going to be is going to remain. In fact, it's going to be extended ever so slightly. It's going to be extended by 10 points, I believe. It's going to be 38 points going into the final 2 races as we jump back again trackside as Duftinho makes his way around the final corner for the very final time. Here he comes, back-to-back victories here at the Algarve circuit in Portugal. Fantastic racing from him all the way through the evening in both wet and dry. He managed to make this count for a back-to-back set of wins to extend his championship lead above the second place of Thorsten. NRP did an amazing job to get himself third position there. He did, of course, start at the back of this grid in the feature race along with Thorsten and Duftinho. Found himself in a little bit of luck as a few drivers got caught in altercations. Its PT does well for 4th place. Travis does enough for 5th place in the end, ahead of Traven. But let's bring up our timings. There are going to be penalties to play for this one. So it looks as though Traven does enough for 5th place. We will confirm that when we get our official race standings up at the end of this one. Bruce Law ends up doing enough for 7th position. Fast As Gamer finds himself in 8th place. Hurlo looks as though he's about to come around the final couple of corners to secure himself a top 10 finish in only his 2nd race here in the GT3 Championship. In fact, I do believe he only raced in last week's feature as well, so it's only his 3rd session here in the GT3s. Looking to put a stamp down on his name on the championship, build his way up the points, and it's going to definitely going to help that. He comes across the line in 9th position. Looks as though VMX is just coming around now the final corner. He's going to finish up in 10th. Alright, Turkish. He found himself right at the front. It looks as though his pit strategy didn't pay off. He finds himself down at the pack in 11th position when he comes to cross the line. But he's not going to cross the line. That is going to be it for tonight's feature race. Let's have a look at the official standings once all of the penalties have been taken in. In fact, Duftinho was very lucky there. He only had less than a second of a gap ahead of Thorsten due to a 4-second race director penalty applied. But he ends up taking the back-to-back set of wins here at the Autodromo Internacional de Algarve ahead of Thorsten. NRP does enough for 3rd place ahead of its PT, who despite a 1-second penalty had nobody else for company. Traven though gets ahead of Travis due to a 1-second penalty being applied. Bruce Law does enough for 7th place after getting taken out on the first lap. He ends up finishing ahead of Fast As Gamer, who had a 30-second penalty. I can only assume that that is due to a speeding in the pit lane penalty. So quite lucky there to finish ahead of the 9th place of Hurlo. We then see VMX Rider in 10th position, Alright Turkish in 11th, followed by Lionsfoot and Dark Ninja. And unfortunately, Evan having to retire from the race due to some hardware issues on his PlayStation controller. So that concludes our GT3 Championship for this week. Be sure to join us again next week as our GT3 drivers find themselves battling around. I'm just trying to bring up and confirm the circuit information. I do believe it's Monza next time around though. A definite fan favourite, and it's going to be an absolute corker around the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. Be sure to join us for that same time, 8 o'clock on Saturday. And in the meantime, if you've missed out on any of our championships here at Rubbins Racing, you'll be able to find them all on the Rubbins Racing YouTube channel. Remember to look up the website if you'd like any more information about what we do or if you'd like to join up. And as for me, your commentator for the evening, Murphy, I will see you all again for the Rubbins Racing Touring Car Championship on Tuesday at 8 o'clock UK time. Thank you all very much and have a good evening.